All right, welcome to the Jerry Graves channel. Channel we talk about narcissism, all types of things, sports, everything. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Um, this video is gonna be about a situation I went through when I was in the Navy and when I was dealing with my narcissistic father. You know what I'm saying? And so basically, what happened was when I was in the Navy, I was always being bullied just because of how I look. I don't know how to explain that, but it was because of that. And I think that people go above and beyond with me because I'm also black. You know what I'm saying? So I can't just get away with it. Like if people start mistreating me, it goes further than what it would normally go with anybody, with other people, you know. So you end up having to fight back, and you can't just sit there and just take it because you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. Like it can go somewhere like really dark, and you can be harmed. You know, it goes above and beyond because you're black, basically. You know, so I'm not going to get up here and try to make it seem like this was just because of racism, but it was a combination of things. And so I'm being singled out, and so I ended up calling out the racism that was going on. And so what ended up happening is, since I called out the white supremacists, they were like, you know what, no matter what, we're not going to allow you to get out of the Navy with your GI Bill. So they kept sending me up, which is basically sending you to like court, but a court on the ship about every little thing that you do. They're nitpicking. They have, you know what I'm saying, you're working 18 hours a day at some points, you know what I'm saying? Not all the time, but there's weeks and sometimes even months where you work 18 hours a day, and you're working with the people that are trying to find anything to get on you. So they're going to find it, especially if they have 9 months at a time. There's a lot of time to find something, and all it takes is like 3 or 4 different things, and they can legally send you up to talk to the captain. And if they keep sending you up, then they say it's a pattern of misconduct. So even if you aren't doing anything that's serious, if you keep going up to see the captain, they'll kick you out just because they're like you're not adapting to the life, and it's a pattern of misconduct. So that's what they were trying to do. They're trying to get me on a pattern of misconduct. So I was fighting against that, and um, they just wouldn't allow me to get away with it just because I called out white supremacy. So they, you know what I'm saying? And whenever you do that, the white supremacists are like, it's their obligation to make sure that you pay for it, you know, and they'll never stop coming after you. And that's what they were doing. So even after I had just got out of being punished, I come back and then it starts all over again. So anyway, that was what was going on, but I was fighting it. You know, I was fighting it. At some points, I was actually getting things to kind of go in my favor here and there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still a victim of white supremacy. I still don't have any power, but I could prove my case here and there, and the punishments weren't as severe as my chain of command was calling for, you know. And so eventually my one of the higher ups come to me, and they're like, why are you always fighting? Like, why are you constantly trying to fight? It seems like you're just always fighting. And he was one of the people who was going against me. So I was just like, well, you guys are always fighting against me. And then he denies it. He's like, no, we're not. You know, we're not even trying to get you, basically. And he convinced me that, you know, he wasn't after me. So as soon as I let my guard down, I didn't do the thing that I was trying to do, which was go up against the chain of, like, go outside the chain of command. And I was going to do something really drastic, you know what I'm saying, to protect myself. And I decided not to do it because it took a lot of energy, it had taken a lot of time and everything to do it. And I was like, I basically second guessed myself. And then so the next week I'm going back up to see the captain. And so he lied to me, and he convinced me of that. And that's the what this video is about. It's like they can't really beat you because, and I want to say, as far as beating you, not as in getting you kicked out of the military, getting you fired, or something like that. I'm talking about as far as making you lose and lose who you are, lose as far as them taking control over your life, lose as far as everybody who's outside of the situation, who's looking in, seeing you guys battle, making you lose in their eyes. They can't do that unless you give in, you know. And that's what it comes down to. My dad did the same thing. Like, he was trying to, at some point, they don't want to directly talk about their abuse because they want to keep you in the fog and feel like, you know, you're second guessing yourself. You're paranoid. You don't know what's, you know what I'm saying? So them coming directly to you and saying, you know, why don't you stop fighting so hard, is basically admitting that they're attacking you, and that there is something going on. Because before that, most of the time they try to make it seem like it's you that's bringing this on yourself. So that's them talking to you without their mask, basically. But if you reach a point where you're beyond what's normal for their abuse, because they do this to a lot of people and they're used to people just giving in at a certain point, you know. And if you don't do it, they have a lot of questions, and eventually they might even come to you and ask you, like, or say something like, you know, if you just didn't argue with me about that so much, I wouldn't even try to do I wouldn't go as hard on you, or I wouldn't do this or that. You know, why are you always trying to fight against me? Like, why are you always fighting so hard? Why are you always, and stuff like that, you know. And it makes it seem like, again, if you would stop doing what you're doing, they wouldn't do what they're doing, and everything would be all right. I've had this even at a place that I was working. I remember I was working at McDonald's, you know, and there was a person there who was like, really, she was she was able to really control the environment. She would play victim if you go back after her, and she was really good at fake crying. And me being a black person, a black male, if she did this routine, then everybody would turn against me. But so she would do that all the time, right? And we even had that moment where she was just like, I was telling her, why are you trying to basically always starting stuff? Like, why are you always coming after me, right? I said that to her, and then she's like, if you just did what I said, if you didn't argue, you just did what I said, I would leave you alone. And the problem with that was she wasn't in charge. You know what I'm saying? She's not in charge of me, you know. And she basically was trying to be a manager, or not even a manager, a GM at this job. Her mom used to work there, and she just felt like she ran the place, and she was just, you know, somebody she's part of the crew, you know what I'm saying? And she wasn't asking me to do things that are reasonable either. It wasn't like, you know, I'm asking you to do something that's just a part of your job, which most people probably hearing that would assume. But it wasn't that. Like, she was going above and beyond and trying to basically just um make me into like her slave, you know what I mean? And I wasn't gonna have that. And so I was just like, no. And that was the time where she was talking to me without her mask, you know. Before, it was always like, well, you know, you're making me do this, you're the problem, you're bringing this on yourself. And now it's like, okay, I'm admitting that I am harassing you, I am bothering you, I am doing this, what you're thinking, to you. But if you just give in, it won't be that bad, you know. So she's admitting to what she's doing, which is really rare. I don't get this all the time, but sometimes you face that, right? And I'm like, no, I'm just not going to, except for the time in the Navy, where I was just confused, you know what I'm saying? But I actually believed that they would stop. But now, like, this happened after the Navy, so like I realized that, no matter what, I'm not going to stop just because. And it's like, to them, getting you to stop, getting you to go along with it, that's their victory. That's them winning, you know. And that'll show everybody that, I finally have won. As long as you're saying something back, as long as you're showing some form of resistance, then they hate that. And that's what it's about. Like, a war is always going to be going on as long as there's um somebody fighting. The only time a war is over is when the person stops fighting. And that's what they just want you to stop fighting. They get tired of fighting with you. You know, if you have one of those, if you keep going, they'll get tired of fighting with you, and they're just like, what I'm saying, this war has to end at some point. But it's like, no, if it's a war, it's a war. We're gonna keep fighting until the right side prevails. And that's what happens even on like a racial level. White supremacists, they want black people to just be like, just completely give in. And that's the reason why there's a racial war that's still going on, because there's always going to be a black person who's still going to be fighting against the system. There always has been. Even if they're in a completely dominant position, they know that they black people haven't completely laid down. And that's the reason why it's a racial war. Even if it's the only time the war is going to stop is when everybody stops fighting, and that's never going to happen until the system of white supremacy is over. And they hate that. They hate that. They know that they're never going to get what they want. They know that. And the narcissist knows that with you, that they're never going to get that, and it infuriates them. But they can't win the war unless you stop fighting, unless you agree to them winning. And at the end of the day, they can try to embarrass you, they can try to beat you down. It's only if they're doing that in front of everybody, it's only going to make you look stronger if you keep fighting them back. So it makes them look bad eventually. At some point, everybody's going to be looking at you like you're just this really strong person, and they're going to look at them like they're just a huge bully. And they can't beat you. And the more that they try, the weaker they look and the stronger you look. And they hate that. That's the dynamic that they hate. So just know that they can't beat you. They can't beat you. They can't beat you until, they have to kill you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the point of the video.